Hello, students. We are in the fourth chapter of our geography textbook known as India, People and Economy. And the chapter's name is Human Settlements. And this is the first part of the video. This video, with this chapter, we'll be doing in two parts for the sake of convenience. Be sure to watch the second part also. Now, human settlement means cluster of dwellings of any type or size where human beings live. This is the definition of it. It's very common sense kind of a definition, and you should know how to write this in your examination. Understand this that this is a place, human settlement is a place where human beings live. The size can be any type, it can be big or small, or it can be of any type. The type can be rural, it can be urban. People erect houses and other structures and command over some area which they call their own. This is the sense of belonging. And that land is also their economic support, especially in rural areas where they rely very much on the primary activities like agriculture and animal husbandry. Their land is important for them. Just they perhaps give more importance to their land than to their own dwellings. Their dwellings can be just a little bit more than a hut, but they gave a lot of value to their land. So the process of settlement involves grouping of people and identifying them with their territory as a personal resource. That land is their personal resource, and they identify themselves with that. Now, settlements they vary in size and they vary in type. They can range from a hamlet, just like a very small village, or it can be a super metropolitan city, can be huge. The economic character and social character they also change with size, and also its relation to the ecology and the level of technology accessible or used is also varying. It can be uh, very technologically advanced or it can be very primitive. Settlements can range from being small and sparsely spaced, or they can be very large and closely spaced. Now, the types of settlements are firstly, you know what is a village. The sparsely located small settlements are called village. The houses are not very densely packed. The villages, they specialize in agriculture and other primary activities such as animal husbandry, poultry farming, etc. You don't find manufacturing or services taking place in villages. The largest settlements are termed as urban settlements. So one side you have the rural settlements, on the other side you have the urban settlements, and the urban settlements specialize in secondary and tertiary activities. Activities are manufacturing in factories, and tertiary activities are related to service. Now, here are the basic differences between rural settlements and urban settlements. You can, of course, add on to them depending on what your understanding is and what your knowledge is. Only make sure that it's in the right direction. Now, rural settlements are life support or basic economic needs. The people from living in the rural areas they derive their economic needs from the land-based primary economic activities like agriculture or animal husbandry. Urban settlements, on the other hand, they depend on the process of raw materials and manufacturing of finished goods and a variety of services. Rural settlements provide food and raw material to the cities. Now, in order for this to take place, means of transport that is when we say transport, it includes roads as well as vehicles, can be of any type, and communication that is interchange of data and information. These are required. Now, there's a functional relationship between the rural and urban areas, rural and urban settlements. Cities, they act as nodes of economic growth, not only of themselves, but also of the rural areas from which they receive food and raw materials. Cities have to depend on the rural areas for food and raw materials. Rural people are less mobile, so the social relations there are more intimate. They know their neighbors very well, much better than people in cities do. The way of life in cities is very complex and fast, and that is the reason why the social relations are only formal. They meet only on occasions, on marriages, on parties in the club, or during festivals. Also, the attitude and outlook of urban people differs from the rural people. You can tell apart a man from the village when he lands up in a city. His way of working, his behavior, his words, his mannerism will be entirely different. Now, in this chapter, in this part of the chapter, we'll be talking about rural settlements. In the second part of this chapter, we'll be talking about the urban settlements. Now, in rural settlements, uh, two things are important: built-up area of the house and the distance between two houses. This is important because in villages you find the houses can be big, they can be quite spacious, they are open, very much openness is there, and the distance between two houses is quite large. There may be a walled compound or there may not be a walled compound, but the distance between two houses is quite big. That is the interhouse distance. There are various factors and conditions responsible for having different types of rural settlements in India. Now, they include physical features, they include the cultural and ethnic factors, they also include the social security factors. Now, when we talk about physical features, we mean the nature of the terrain, the altitude, the climate, and availability of water. Even if a person is living in New York, his life will depend on availability of water. If he is living in a high rise on the 100th floor, and if he is not able to get water for drinking and for his daily needs, then he will not live there. And same is the case for a man living in the desert. If he doesn't get water there he will leave that place and go elsewhere. About cultural and ethnic factors, they include social structure and caste and religion. And security factors, everybody wants a good life which is free from fears of any kind to either to their property or to their lives. So they require defense against thefts and robberies, and this is also an important factor. If you know there's a place which is prone to terrorist attacks or Naxal attacks, you will not prefer to go and live there. It's as simple as that. Now, the types of rural settlements in India can be clustered. In the category of clustered, we also have agglomerated or nucleated. We will talk about this a little later. We also have semi-clustered. They are also known as fragmented settlements. We have a hamleted, and then we have the dispersed or isolated rural settlements. The first type, this is clustered settlement. This is an area of houses which are compact and closely built up. These houses are located very near to each other. The general living area is distinct and separate from the surrounding farms, barns, and pastures. The houses and streets present some recognizable geometric pattern or shapes. They can be rectangular, they can be radial, or they can be linear. This is an example of rectangular settlement pattern. This is a radial settlement pattern. It's almost like a circle. This is a linear settlement pattern. There's a road, and on both sides of the road, there are houses. This is a clustered settlement. This is a cluster of houses very close to each other, even though there is land available in the surroundings. Still, the houses are very closely located. This is what we meant when we said nucleated. Now, this looks like a cell observed under a microscope, and if you imagine this to be a cell, then this dense area in the middle is the nucleus. So in nucleated settlements, there's one point, one center where you find a lot of houses. Clustered settlements are found generally in fertile alluvial plains and in the northeastern states. Sometimes people live in compact villages for the reason of security and defense. Bundelkhand area or Nagaland, where there are problems with um, bandits or socially separate groups. People there live in clusters because of security. Then scarcity of water also sometimes makes it necessary for compact settlements, and that is for the maximum utilization of the available water resource. This is an example of what I just said. The water resource available. This is a desert village, and there's one uh, little pond, and surrounding that pond is the village. In semi-clustered settlements, these are also called fragmented settlements, and these may result from the tendency of clustering in a restricted area of dispersed settlement. They can also be a result of segregation or fragmentation of a large compact village. The village is big, maybe there's a canal in the middle, or maybe there's a highway on both sides this village is located, or some it may be possible that some sections of the society, they willingly they move a little away from the main village and they settle down there. So this would lead to semi-clustered or fragmented settlement. Now in this photograph you have one cluster on the left hand side, and there's a small gap in the middle, and the next cluster on the right hand side. So this is a semi-clustered settlement. Perhaps some different type of people live on the cluster on the right hand side. That's a smaller cluster than the one which is on the left. There must be some reason which we do not know from this photograph, because without reason there is nothing. Now, this semi-clustered settlements, generally the landowning or the dominant community occupies the central part of the main village, and people of lower strata and menial workers settle in the outer flanks of the village. Such settlements are widespread in Gujarat plains and some parts of Rajasthan. Talking about Rajasthan, you have what we call as the Regar Basti. You know what I mean? These people, they settle down a little bit away from the main town or the main village, and in that colony you will find people of their own community. It can also be a religious community. People of some religious beliefs, they settle down together in one place. Now we're talking about hamlets. Sometimes settlements is fragmented into several units which are physically separated from each other, but they bear a common name. Certain parts of the country you have, especially if you go to Chhattisgarh, you have a lot of padas. If you have go to the south of India, even in Odisha, you have a lot of pallis, and in Rajasthan you have dhanas, dhanis, and social and ethnic factors also cause such fragmentation. Examples are in the middle and lower Ganga plain, in Chhattisgarh, lower valleys of the Himalayas, you have hamleted settlements. This is an example of one beautiful hamleted settlement. Just a few houses and nothing else. In dispersed settlements, they appear in the form of isolated huts or hamlets of few huts in remote villages, in jungles, or in small hills with farms or pastures on the slopes. The reason for this extreme dispersion is because of the nature of terrain and the habitable area. Every part of the land may not be habitable. You cannot make a house everywhere. So, such dispersed settlements are common in Meghalaya, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and Kerala. Now, this is an example of dispersed settlement. You have one house here, and then land, and then the next house, and then land, and the next house, and the land, and so on. This is end of part one of this chapter's video. So we stop here. Be sure to watch the second part also. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon in the part 2 of this chapter. Bye.